What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to this channel. We're going to be talking a little bit about how breastfeeding can really encourage your personal growth and development. I like to call it perinatal personal development. I'm excited to welcome you back. I just want to say, hey, mama. Welcome back to this channel, and I am so excited to get into this content with you today. My name is Vanessa Simmons. I am the founder and the photographer behind the Normalize Breastfeeding movement. I am a photographer, speaker, and author, and I have been traveling the United States, documenting families, and figuring out what this breastfeeding thing is all about. I also became a certified lactation educator and counselor along my journey. And I'm just excited to bring you some content that will help you to feel prepared as you begin or continue yours. So before we jump into it, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been following this channel from the beginning. I want to say hey to all of you, and I want to say thank you for subscribing. And if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and like this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on your notifications so you get a reminder that we have published new content every time it goes live. So let's jump into it. Today we're talking about the benefits of breastfeeding for mom, perinatal growth and development. And this really can look like what normal personal development looks like, right? If you think about personal development, you think about learning more about yourself, studying what you really love to do and how you want to move forward in your life by doing that deep study of yourself and then setting goals around what you desire for your future and moving in that direction. And so I like to associate breastfeeding and even birth, the whole perinatal experience and journey, as something that can really open our minds to the growth aspect, right? It's not just about growing a baby. It's about us as the mother growing into ourselves, growing into who we are. I don't know if you felt those growing pains, those stretches of, developing patience and developing discipline, but we're going to get into it. We're going to talk a little bit about how that all affects the journey. Growth takes dedication. It takes hard work. And it takes a lot of patience. But as we continue to make ourselves available to the journey, as we continue to surrender to all of the circumstances that come along with a birth and also a breastfeeding experience, we start to develop ourselves in all of the best ways. And while the journey may seem difficult as we're in the present time, usually we can look back and in hindsight, we can really feel good about the choices that we made. How are you feeling about the choices you've made along your journey? Let me know in the comments. So today I want to talk about 4 specific things that I believe your perinatal experience will develop in you as you grow. The first one is vulnerability. Okay. The second one is commitment. The third is self-discipline. And the fourth is self-accountability. When we think about being vulnerable, sometimes we can feel a little out of place. We can feel like we're a little out of control. We can feel like everyone's looking at us and we're the center of the attention, and that might not feel so good. We might be hormonal, we might be crying, we might be longing for additional attention. All of these things can happen as you're going through the experience. But I want to tell you right now, it's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable at this time because you are growing a human being within yourself. Your being, your presence is now experiencing the presence of a total different being, right? And so it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not know everything about what's going on. And it's okay to open up and share with your spouse, share with your partner what's going on. How are you feeling? And if you don't feel comfortable sharing with them, I would highly suggest that you look into finding someone who you can share with, whether that be another pregnant or breastfeeding mother that you can develop a relationship with, or maybe even, if you're dealing with some more emotional, mental trauma, maybe looking into starting therapy. There are also, just counselors and mentors that you can reach out to have that safe space where you can open up about what you're dealing with and what you're going through along your journey. As you are breastfeeding, your hormones are changing as you move from that pregnancy state to now the nurturing, breastfeeding, milk production state. And as your hormones change, you're really starting to feel uncomfortable. And that discomfort that you feel is not just related to what's going on as you're nursing your baby. The discomfort that you feel are the different ways that you're being pulled and stretched and put into spaces where you might not feel completely comfortable, or you might not feel secure, or you might not feel that things are going your way. That's all completely normal. And I just want to encourage you today and let you know that the relationship you are building between you and your baby is not just important for your baby, it's important for you. It's important that you are able to grasp different aspects of the relationship and take them as learning lessons so that you can move forward in life confidently. It's really not easy to care for a newborn, and becoming a mother teaches you a whole lot in life. So let's learn from these lessons instead of allowing these experiences to overtake us, to make us feel unworthy, to make us feel like we don't matter, right? You do matter. You matter to your baby, you matter to your partner. And what's most important during this time is that you start to look within yourself and find those different ways that you matter. Find those ways that you provide a special and unique experience for your baby, and how no one can take that away from you. And it doesn't matter what your situation is like with your child's father. There could be, some drama going on around the situation. There could be some difficult, experiences going on with it. At the end of the day, the two of you created this one being. And more importantly than anything else, it's important that this one being feels secure in that relationship with the two of you. And so I always suggest that no matter what the situation is, that you're able to come together for the sake of the child and really create a safe, harmonious space for the child to grow up in. Take the risk to build connection. It's a risk to open up and be vulnerable. It's a risk to tell someone how you're really feeling deeply within yourself. But what comes from it is connection. What comes from it is the ability to see that you're not doing this all on your own. And matter of fact, you were not created to do it all on your own. Thousands of years ago, we lived in tribal scenarios where there were whole aspects of the tribe that would come to your aid when you gave birth. And this is an interesting way to look at it as we consider that we really try to do everything on our own, right? This super mom mentality is not the business. It's not the way, okay? And that whole vibe, it brings you down in the long run. It makes you bitter. It makes you feel like you don't deserve much. It makes you feel like you're unworthy. And so I just want to encourage you today to know that if you take the risk to build connection with your baby, with your spouse or your partner during this time, even if you're feeling uncomfortable about opening up and sharing what you're going through, I promise you it will lead to a deeper and more beautiful connection that you've ever had before. So another one is commitment. It's so important to remember that when you give birth to a baby, well, let's go even further back. When you get pregnant and you know that this birth is coming down the pike, it's so important to develop that idea of commitment to the lifestyle that comes along with raising a child. So often we see mothers who are really struggling with the transition to let go of that once wild party life, that once opportunity to always be with friends and always be out and about, and come into a more sedentary, a more disciplined, a more quiet, a life of solitude. Because when you become a parent today, you're really blocked out from the rest of the world. It's kind of like what we went through when we dealt with the pandemic. Postpartum is a time where you are separated from everyone, right? Except for those few key people who are in your life, and including your practitioners and the people who are taking care of you and the baby. So when we think about commitment, it's important to set the intention of commitment. It's important to think about, what does this mean for me if I am not willing to commit to this life? What does it mean for my baby, our baby, if I'm not willing to commit to this life? I think a lot of parents go through the process without remembering to set the intention of commitment. And a lot of women will say it's the father, they're not around, they're not doing what they need to do. But the reality is that commitment begins with how you relate to that partner as well. Keep it positive, keep it light. If things are not going well, just make sure that intention of commitment is set and that you're able to work together for the sake of this child. Becoming a mother requires preparation. It requires readiness for the commitment to the roles involved with the transition. As a breastfeeding mother, you have to understand that while it is completely worth it, while it is completely the best investment that you can make for yourself, but also for your baby, there are roles involved that start to separate you from the rest of the world, start to make you feel as if you don't have a life anymore, that you don't have the ability to be able to just come and go as you please. You've got to prepare yourself for that. You've got to be ready for that change, because it's a shocker when it happens. And I can attest to the fact that No one ever really prepares you for it. But what I will say is the same way that we prepared in the beginning of the pandemic, the same way that we kind of stocked up our houses and made sure that we had supplies and made sure that we had the things that we would need if we would be shut down for a long period of time, that's the same mindset you've got to go into postpartum with. You've got to be ready. You got to have an idea of, okay, if everything goes right, this is what we'll need in our home. If everything goes wrong, these are the things we might want to consider to have as well. Definitely keeping the focus on the positive. Take note of your time and life commitments. If you've decided to have this baby and your life and time commitments don't have space for what a baby will require, it's time to do some searching within yourself and start to ask yourself, what else can be done to make sure that this baby has all of the space and all of the security that they will need? It's so important to think about the fact that your time and life commitments can either support your journey or take away from it. So another one is self-discipline. I love this one because as moms, we don't really think about the fact that we have to discipline ourselves to do what's required of us to be this baby's mother. It's not easy, okay? There's not a single part of being a mom that is easy. The easiest part may be that final breath you take when your baby is latched on and eating well and not having any issues in that process. Then you can finally sit down, smile, and just say, here we are, we're nursing, and everything for at least this very moment is absolutely amazing. But it's important to discipline yourself because there will be times where you might feel like everything is falling apart. And if you can create a certain routine, create a certain way of life for yourself, and I'm not talking about everyone else, I'm talking about you. What are some disciplines, some non-negotiables that you need while you're in this pregnancy stage that you can plan ahead and say, these are the things that I need to do for myself? For example, maybe you love to journal. Maybe you love to write. Maybe that's something that has kept you sane. It's given you the mental health that you desire. What I would suggest is making sure that when you have a certain area where you're nursing your baby, and maybe you have, diapers and wipes and bottles of water for you in case you get thirsty. You also want to have a journal nearby. You also want to have your phone nearby. Maybe you can do voice journaling since you can't really write and breastfeed at the same time. There are different ways to go about it. There are different ways to make it work. And so we want to think out when we consider disciplining ourselves, understanding that this is right where you are supposed to be. Even when all of the chaos hits the fan, this is exactly where you've been planted. And this is where you sprout. This is where you grow. I was searching online for some information about motherhood and discipline. I found this site called I Believe, and it says, when you come to the end of yourself, you're right where God wants you to be. Now, whether you believe in God or not, that's fine. But remember that when everything has been stripped away, you're finally seeing who you are. You're finally seeing what you're capable of. And I'm willing to bet that you're capable of so much more than you ever could have thought or imagined. So take note of the results of these disciplines. Okay, don't focus on the fact that you aren't able to go to the club anymore. Don't focus on the fact that you are not able to drink alcohol as often as you would like to. Don't focus on the fact that you can't, come and go as you please. Focus on the results of these disciplines. Focus on the fact that you're building a bond with another being that is unbreakable. Focus on the fact that you are investing into your health and into your own self-care. Don't let anyone tell you different. Breastfeeding is an act of self-care. All right? Focus on the fact that in 20 years, your baby will have such a solid health foundation that they will be able to avoid many common diseases. And focus on the fact that your body is creating the specific milk that your baby needs each and every day. So the last one is self-accountability. And this one's a big one because it's very easy to point the blame when we start to feel like we're cornered, we haven't gotten enough sleep, we haven't gotten enough nutrition, we don't feel like we're getting any social time, right? It's hard. And there's this quote, when it's hard, do it hard, right? So it's important to be accountable to yourself. It's important to remember that when things go wrong, when things hit the fan, it's not always someone else's fault. And usually the last place that we look for answers, the last place that we look to point the blame is at ourselves. We always will look for something external. We will always look for something or someone to say, they should have done this. I want to challenge you during this journey to take those moments to look within yourself. What could you have done differently? What could you have said differently or not said at all? What could you have considered in regards to someone else's feelings, even if they weren't considering your own? What could you have done to nurture instead of tear down? Because these are the ways that you will start to really and truly grow into the mother you were created to be. I found this other site called The Simple Mama, and she has 5 roles of a mother. And they are, number 1, to love, unconditionally to love your baby. The second one is to care, physically and emotionally. The third is to correct, to discipline, and to train. The fourth is to build, to encourage, to teach. And the fifth is to connect, to learn your children and grow with them. Now, if you saw my last video, I talk about how I really believe that the purpose of breastfeeding is connection. You are your baby's first connection to your partner, to your community, and to the world. These 5 roles are roles that can be very difficult to sustain if we are focused on how everyone else is not doing something. These roles require that we stop and look at ourselves and look at how we move and look at how we strategize and look at how we communicate. Because if we applied these same rules of a mother, if we applied them to how we treat people in life in general, we would have a completely different life. I don't know about you, but something that nurturing my baby taught me was that I was really not that nurturing to people around me. I was really not that nurturing to my husband. I was really not that nurturing to our other children. Breastfeeding our youngest taught me that I needed to step outside of myself and look at myself and see how I communicated and how I relayed information to everyone else in the family. Was I giving them the same attention and care? Was I considerate of my words and how I used them? Was I building them up? Was I tearing them down? Was I teaching them, not just disciplining them, but was I coming into a space of teaching them and accepting and inviting and embracing their curiosity? Or was I just shouting and trying to shut things down and have things happen my way so I could feel like I had some kind of control? I want you to take into account what is required of you. A lot of people don't like to hear that. They don't like to hear that things are required of them. But as you made this decision to become a mother, and you made this decision to step into alignment with being the sole source of this baby's life outside of your womb, it's important to remember that you are required to do some things to ensure that your baby has a well-rounded and full life ahead of them. What do you require of yourself? Let me know in the comments. This has been another amazing video that I have been so excited to share with you, and I cannot wait to hear from you. Let me know how your journey is going. Let me know how some of these different disciplines have helped you or hurt you. Let me know how you're feeling about this content. Do you want me to make more of it, or do you want to hear something else? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and we'll see you back in the next one.